So to join the pouch and the waistband, it's pretty simple and the same for every single size pouch, but there's just one little difference. So we're basically going to divide the total number of chains that we use for the waistband and divide that by 2. And that would be the half, or essentially the middle of the waistband. And that's where we want to connect the middle of the pouch. So for example, I did a small pouch and a small waistband. So that is 130, it's 131 chains, and then you skip the first chain. So it's 130 total, and then 130 divided by 2 is 65. So what I'm gonna do is start from the back of my jockstrap. I added the elastic already, so it's a little crunchy looking, but let me find the back here. Okay, so this is the back. So I always start from the back seam because I know it's the other side, the other middle side. So I will start by finding the first chain, which is right here. And then I basically count 65 chains all the way around until I get to the front. And then I already stitched marked my 65th stitch. So from here, you're gonna put the wrong sides together, and you're gonna take your pouch and you're gonna find the middle seam, which is this one right here. And a tip is, if you find your tail end of the yarn, you know that's where you started, so that will always be the first chain there. So you could connect these two together with your stitch marker. And now you know it's perfectly aligned. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into that middle seam there where the tail end of the yarn is. And I'm gonna go ahead and insert my hook into the corresponding side of the waistband where I stitch marked. I used a piece of yarn here, but I just put it in there because this is my yarn that I'm gonna use to sew it together. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the back loop only. And now I'm going to insert my yarn again by placing it on the hook, leaving a little bit of tail end to even the end. And then I'm gonna pull through and chain 1 to secure that. And then once you chain 1, I like to go back into that stitch and then go back into the corresponding back loop only on the other side and place 1 slip stitch in that same stitch. And then I like to pull the tail end of the yarn just to make sure it's extra tight. Okay, once we made that first slip stitch, we're gonna go ahead and make 16 more for a total of 17 slip stitches. And in order to go and find the next stitch, basically an easy trick is that each ridge here is 2 rows. So you know that in between is just 1. So you're gonna go into this next stitch here and then go into the corresponding back loop of the waistband, and we're gonna place a slip stitch. Now you're gonna do that 15 more stitches all the way through. I stitch mark just so I know when to stop. You could do the same thing. And once you do 15, we're gonna go ahead and reinsert our hook on the other side where we left off, and then do 15 more. You could start and do it from the edge and then count 15, go to the middle, and then count 15 on the other side. I just like doing it this way so I know I have 15 on each side. Sometimes if I start from one side, I tend to miss a stitch, but you could do it either way you'd like. But go ahead and finish slip stitching the 15 more stitches, and I will show you how to do the other side. Okay, I just finished slip stitching my 17 stitches on the first side, and as you can see, it is looking nice already. And the reason we do the back loop only is so that these front loops stick out. It's part of the design. If you wanted it to be through both loops, it might just look a little more heavy duty, but this gives it a nice little clean look. Now to do the other side, we're gonna flip our work and do the same exact thing on the other side. But since we flipped our work, now we're gonna be working into the front loop only and then into the corresponding stitch on the pouch. So it's basically the opposite of what we were just doing. So go ahead and reinsert your hook into the front loop only and then the corresponding stitch of where we left off on the pouch. And now we're gonna reinsert our yarn, pull through, chain one, and then remember to go back into that same stitch, the front loop only, and then the stitch you just did on the pouch, and make a slip stitch to secure. Now we're gonna go ahead and count 16 more for our total of 17 slip stitches. And once you do that, you could go ahead and cut your yarn and fasten off. Okay, I got to the end here, and for the last stitch, I actually like to go through both stitches on the waistband and then both stitches on the pouch side, because sometimes when you fasten off on an edge and just go through the back loop, the front loop, the back loop is just left sticking out. So go ahead and for the last stitch, you're gonna do this on both ends. On this side, and when you do this side, go through both loops and then go through that last corresponding stitch and then slip stitch through both. And then you're just gonna chain one to fasten off. Okay, so that is how you connect the pouch to the waistband. If you flip it inside out for the right side showing, you could see the back loops only sticking out, and that's for the design, just to make it look a little bit cleaner. And this type of jockstrap has an oval shape to it, whereas my classic jockstrap had a V. But I did that by basically starting with a smaller chain number and going up and increasing to make that shape. But you are left with sort of these little V's sticking out on the corners. But when you actually put on the jockstrap, you're able to fold them in, and it's not bulky or uncomfortable. But when you fold them in, that basically allows for the oval shape. And with the elastic in as well, it definitely helps minimize that because it scrunches it together. But just keep that in mind when you're actually wearing the jockstrap.